Our guy.
Eddie sat down. He's about. Last time I saw it, made me cry.
Really?
He didn't know. We're live. He didn't know any history. Or if he did, he didn't say anything.
Everybody good?
Anyway.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Elizabethton City Schools November board meeting. It's going to be a little bit different tonight. We have a lot of people here. This is one of our favorite meetings of the year. We get to recognize our teachers of the year. We get the wonderful privilege of voting to grant tenure to some much deserving teachers. So we're going to have the meeting tonight. We have a light agenda. But we also have some very tired administrators who've been up all night. So we're going to hopefully get through the meeting at a good speed for everybody. And then we're going to have a very light reception afterwards. So stay for cake, because if not, we'll make you take cake home. So that's what's going to happen. And if everybody would, please stand. And Dr. Gardenauer is going to lead us in a moment of silence and pledge to the flag.
Okay, let's have our moment of silence. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Campbell, if you want to come up and get us started on the folks that went to Crosstown.
I really don't have a lot to say. I'm going to let them speak for themselves since they're the ones that got to go have fun on the trip. But I will say this. The executive director at Crosstown, Chris Terrell, called me, I guess, the second day the students were there, and he said, I just want you guys to know that you really have some amazing young people on this trip. And he said he really enjoyed getting to know them. So I think he made a really good impression on them. But I'm basically going to turn it over to them and let them introduce themselves and whatever they want to do.
Perfect.
My name is Virgil. I guess I'll do the introduction to the introduction here. Obviously, Mr. Campbell asked us to take a trip to Crosstown, me and Mr. Mills here, and of course we said we would do it because it was kind of an interesting thing. And there was a picture we wish we could have showed you where we called it the urban kids meeting the country kids, and it was a nice little standoff there where people were kind of worried about what was about to happen, but then about 30 seconds later they just kind of ran together and you just watched poetry in motion. Of course, you got to see these kids interact. And what we're going to do is let them tell you a little bit about their interaction and what they took away from it for about a minute or two apiece. But the biggest thing was Mills put together that slideshow that you see in the back there, and there's some other things, and I guess we're going to ad-lib as we go along. But the biggest take was to see how Crosstown was this big entity of outside-the-box thinking, but yet they still needed some way to come back to some traditional things. And what we brought to the table was the traditional things, but we also saw some outside-the-box thinking that we kind of walked away and said maybe there's a meeting in the middle that needs to happen at some point. So we're going to let those guys talk about some of the things they saw, and we'll let it go from there and see how it goes. So if there's any questions, we'll take them at the end if you need to answer, or for us to answer any questions. So I'm going to turn it over to these gentlemen right here. We'll start with Caleb, and then, of course, he'll introduce the next person, and we'll get to Mr. Mills at the end. Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Caleb Tipton, and I'm going to be honest. Whenever Mr. Campbell came and asked me if I wanted to go, I had no clue because he said that I had a day in advance to say yes or no. So I just I went home and talked to my mom about it, and me and her thought it would be a good opportunity to see what the different kind of like learning how they went about school on the whole different side of the state. And my biggest takeaway was that their grading scale was, I wouldn't say completely different, but it was a lot different from the grading scale here at Elizabethton, and I think a lot of schools. The teachers would grade them off of how they went about learning their topic that they were learning about. So if they turned in a project, because it was all project-based learning, so if they turned in a project and the teacher saw that he put in effort and learned how he made that project, then he would get graded 0 to 5. So 5 being the best and 0 being, not the best. So I think that was different, and I think it was pretty cool because instead of the teachers giving them assignment and them having to do it the way the teachers want them to do it instead of how they want to do it, I think that was just very different and cool to see how the students will turn out whenever they're seniors. starting like a different way of learning. And I just think that that was my biggest takeaway from the trip. Thank you.
Well, I'm Dawson May. I'm a freshman and that went on the trip, and I have a few things I'd like to talk about. First off, thank you guys for allowing us to do this. And the first thing I'd like to say was one of the biggest differences I noticed from Crosstown to EHS was the interactions between students and teachers. I thought it was an almost personal relationship they had, and it was something really special. Well, because rather than teachers drilling into them note by note, page by page, they directed them in a way where they felt like they were taking over their own learning process. And I feel like that really helped to engage the students in the learning process and make them feel like this is something they wanted to do. They had pride in their learning, and it was something that was super special to them, to be able just to go to school. It was added on to by the fact that throughout the school you could see everywhere that the students were involved in it. From the library to just murals around the school, the students could walk to anywhere in the school, point to it and say, hey, we made this. This is our design. We took this away from it. And it was just amazing. Some of the students gave us a small tour before, or we actually started our day there. They were just walking around. They're like, "Oh, we made this wall last year, and this library was created by us." And it helped them just to keep involved in the learning process. And I think that's something we could really use and implement throughout the school systems through here. I think that would help to engage the students and make them take more pride in just their learning processes. Let me check one more thing. Oops. And lastly, they had something I thought helped to really embody the idea of their school, was this thing called a competency wall. Well, it was a sort of mix between what the students and teachers thought should really be embodied by their school. And honestly, I really didn't think that much of it at first. But throughout the school, I saw that as I was there, the school truly embodied that, and that was the whole meaning of the school in that one little wall there. Some of the most important ones to me were lead one's learning and express yourself boldly, where throughout your projects they weren't necessarily directed to do these things, more as a teacher they were asked to come up with their own ideas of how they wanted to express what they'd learned throughout the past weeks into their projects. The teachers would lead them along. Instead of saying, this is your next step, they ask, what is your next step? And I think that was really special from Crosstown. So, thank you. I'll hand it over to Zeb.
I'm Zeb Roberts. The one thing that I took away from Crosstown was that the way they did their projects and their learning, like the teachers didn't tell them what to learn, like how teachers sometimes today teach to the test. They actually taught to the kids. They didn't teach to the state standards. They taught how they thought would be needed to be taught, but in projects and stuff. So when we was there, when we was leaving the last day that we was there, we had to help some girls carry drywall up for a project at the elevator. So we carried it up there and we asked them what they was doing. They was doing a project where they'd paste pictures of students there on the drywall and they was going to hang it up. And I just thought that was pretty cool. And they had t-shirt makers and everything, and they could do fundraisers with the t-shirt makers and everything like that. So that's what I got out of it, and how the culture was really different from here. So, yeah. Thank you.
I'm Dan Mills, and excuse me, I have laryngitis. I've had it for 2 weeks. But yeah, it's just always amazing to go with our young people from Elizabethton. I've never been on a trip where I've been ashamed of our young people, and we're always so proud of them, and particularly with Coach Whitten and the football team. And you know, whether we win or lose, we play with integrity, and that's just phenomenal. We had a great trip. A couple of things that I took away. One, every student had their own computer, and I know we've talked about that off and on. But it was amazing, and if you watch some of the pictures, pretty much every student is going to have their computer so they can work on things. When they get done with a certain project, they can be on to something else like that. And one of the thoughts I had is I think one of the concerns with computers, individual computers, is, well, if they go home, they're not going to have internet. And what I shared with them down there is I said, you probably can go to your internet providers, and they would be more than happy to come along and say, hey, you got 50 families or 100 families that are your students, we'll provide internet to them free. And they can partner then with the local schools, so we wouldn't have that issue there. But one of the things I asked one of the young ladies was, I said, how do you use your cell phones? When do you use them? And she was telling me, and she said, one of the places we can't use it is they had their own cafeteria there that they all ate there. She said, we can't use a cell phone in line. And I said, why not? And she said, it's disrespectful. So instead of saying, well, the rules are that we can't use it in line, they had to realize the reason we don't use it in line because it's disrespectful. And that was a huge thing of learning the rules versus why do we really not do something. And I think respect was a big part down there with that. But we just have a few slides up here, and if you want to show the last, we've got a little video clip here you got to look at. This was downtown Memphis. What was the street?
Beale Street.
Beale Street, okay.
Took him to Beale Street to see the actual performers and stuff.
Yeah, show it to them one more time. They probably missed this. This is
That
pretty
you
cool.
guys?
That's the kids.
Oh,
Yeah, this is our kids. Watch this guy come here. So, and then just go to the last slide there. I think this last slide with Virgil really says it all. And I'm going to ask Virgil if you just come up, maybe take 30 seconds to explain what's going on with him and this young lady.
I didn't realize I was going to be saying that, but I'll give you my best here. You can't take a teacher in a spot and expect them not to teach. Obviously, that's why you're recognizing these really good teachers tonight, because they do a really good job of what they're doing. The issue was, this is Naomi, she's from Africa. So she's broke down and cried a couple times, and I thought, well, maybe it's just me. I'm this country guy showing up with long hair, and she's not used to seeing somebody like me, and they're in Crosstown. But come to find out at the end of this session, she speaks like 5 different languages, but they're all from Africa. So she breaks down a lot because it's not because she doesn't know what to do, she can't communicate very well. So one of the things I'm doing here is showing her how to take, which I didn't understand why this was not done for her before, but it's probably because sometimes your common sense button kicks in when you mesh 2 worlds together from different places, kind of what we do across town in EHS. So what I did is show her, I asked her what was her predominant language, and she said, well, Swahili was. So I'm showing her here how to take Swahili and translate it into English, so whenever somebody comes up after I'm gone or there, she now can communicate with that person by typing in the words and figuring out what they mean. And her eyes just kind of just opened up to this new possibility that she no longer has to rely on a specific teacher to sit there and translate the word for her. She can type it in and sound it out for herself by clicking a button. And that's what we did for her there, was to open her mind that she can go anywhere in the world without anybody. So that's kind of that moment we took away there.
Yeah, I just finished up, but I think that picture means to me a lot. Really, I think in a way it doesn't matter what technique we use. It all comes down to one-on-one time with your students, and getting involved in their lives and seeing what's going on. And that takes time. That really takes time. One other thing, and I don't finish, and I sound like a Baptist preacher. But one of the things that really hit me, and I mentioned that to because 2 of the fellows that went are my aviation students, is that I've come out of a generation, and you guys have come out of a generation where we've got so much knowledge that we feel we have to communicate to our students, particularly in aviation. But the reality of it is, they have all that information right in their hand. So I don't have to teach them. Well, aviation's a little bit different, but typically we don't have to teach them the facts because they got it right here. We have to teach them how to think. And so where I spend so much time trying to communicate facts to them, I may need to take a look at how I actually teach and say there may be a different way. We're in a new generation where these kids, they're thinking a lot different than what we are. So do I stand up and bore them in a lecture with a bunch of facts, or do I teach them to think and how to find those facts and how to use those facts And so that was a good takeaway. So thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
So I assume they didn't want to wait for a question anyway. So, but there was one thing I forgot to tell you, and that was what the crosstown students took away from Elizabethton. And none of their students had ever had a campfire before, 15 years old. They had never stayed in a cabin before. They had never skipped a rock on the river before. They never toasted a marshmallow before. And those are things I think maybe we take for granted, and sometimes we think we're sheltered up here in the mountains. But maybe there's some things we get to do that maybe you wouldn't get to do if you grew up in a big city. And they really did enjoy the culture very much. And one of the students actually said he would love to come back next year and do a 9 weeks like residency where he learns about Carter County. But anyway, but thank you guys for letting them go. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for taking your time. And I mean, boy, you talk about getting out of your comfort zone. And to do that at your age, I hope you never stop doing that. That's fantastic. So thank you for representing us in Memphis at our sister school. That's very cool. Thank you, guys. All right, we're going to move on. It is time to approve the consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Item on the floor is to approve the consent and regular agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is time for citizens to speak. In accordance with Board Policy 1.404, we had a gentleman who had requested to be put on the agenda, but then contacted us, said he could not make the meeting, so we will be moving on and hope he can join us at another time. So, Dr. Gardner, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I want to thank Danny O'Quinn and John Lee, Mr. Colbert, John Mitten, for all the work they've put in on our STEM lab. Mr. Campbell is also here this evening. He'll be the beneficiary of a lot of that hard work, and he'll be using those materials. We plan to have our bid opening on the 26th, and probably shortly after that, we will request that we have a called meeting, and we'll give you details on that soon after that to let you see what we've received as far as bids and cost, and then we'll want to move forward so we can get started on that project ASAP. Congratulations to our folks who are earning tenure this evening. It's a reward for a lot of hard work and a lot of time. We appreciate our teachers so very much, and especially those this evening that we're celebrating for tenure. Also, we have our Teachers of the Year this evening we're celebrating, and we appreciate them being here as well and their families. I want to make you aware that we are starting kind of a joint grant approach. We're going to be working with the Bonnie Kate project here in town, and we'll be helping writing some grants and working with the city to try to work to have that be our home theater, and that will give us an opportunity to work. Mr. Treadway is heading up that faction of people. He has many others, Mr. Huber and many others, including Meg Foster. They're working on that work with the city, but we think that's an opportunity for us to have a final place to have great opportunities to practice in our community and spread the arts, love of arts in our community. So we're going to be working on writing grants with them and the East Tennessee Foundation, among others, to just try to put our heads together and see how far we can go together. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Armstrong, Bill Armstrong, who couldn't be here tonight, but he was recognized at the football game for his generous contribution, along with Joe Laporte, who has helped us with that project. And it's opened the public and going well. I was invited by the U.S. Attorney's Office to come to Nashville to receive recognition for the COPS grant that we received, and that was a great day and great to see that all the things that the $95 million that will be invested in Tennessee are going to do for our citizens as well as our school system. Also, thanks to TCAT for their work on the GIVE grant, and that's one of what we're doing with our STEM lab. Part of that is the GIVE grant, and we have 2 schools in our region. We're lucky to be one. So thank you. And Mr. O'Quinn was in the paper talking about that and our relationship with TCAT. It's time again for us to start working our strategic plan We're going to be working on that probably prior to the next board meeting. So we'll probably spend about an hour prior to that and then work on for a couple consecutive meetings prior to us working on the budget in order to make sure that's finished to move forward for the upcoming year. We've had a request to sit down and look at TA Duggar and look at some options and really kind of discuss what we have, where we are, what the future and finances have. And I want to make sure that we have, as much as possible, a good view of what's going to happen over the next 10 years as far as the half-cent sales tax and as far as what we're going to do as a city. And we need to make sure that we have time to sit down as a team before we invite City Council to sit down and look at what the needs are there. Also, we have been invited by the Carter County School Board to sit down together and look at just vouchers, what's going on with vouchers and bring ourselves up to speed on what's going to be going on in the next several years, especially with the possibility of a new funding formula that will be coming out. We would just maybe do one training and maybe invite some folks to come up and just share with us as a county. Thank you, Dr. Newman and Mr. Mitten and also Mr. Berry. Ms. Nelson for working on our grading policy that's on here this evening. They did quite a bit of work getting that together, and good job on that. And we had teachers involved and we had a parent, and I think they came up with a great solution. In the next couple weeks, Nicole Moore will be working on a new radio show that we're going to do biannually to start at least. We're going to try it and see how it goes with Tom Taylor coming into our schools to try to focus and highlight a lot of what's going on in our academics within the schools. He's very focused right now on sports programs, but we're wanting to work with him to show what's going on, all the good teaching that's going on, teachers and students, and how creative they are. And we hope that that's a way that we can reach a lot of parents. And, a lot of people may not have the time to come and separate from their work time to come in and be there, but they could, later on that day, look at a radio show that talks about those things if their kids were participating. So we felt that was an opportunity to reach our stakeholders. Budget requests are going to be coming out, if not already, going to be coming out to the board for our new budget cycle. So if you have anything that you would like for us to look at and match up with our strategic plan, please let me know, and we will start working on that. And I want to say thank you also this evening to all of our local law enforcement. They are fantastic. Yesterday we had help from the EPD, the FBI, TBI, and Homeland Security, and they worked as a great group spearheaded by our EPD. And so we appreciate how they make our students safe. So thank you.
Do you want to recognize our people?
Sure. Okay, at this time, if Mr. Van Huss would come forward, and we're going to let him recognize our Teachers of the Year.
And just know you're going to have your picture made, so don't look surprised when you're going back and we make you stop and come back and have your picture made. So.
It's always a great time to recognize, as we've already mentioned today, the wonderful teachers that we have in the school system, people that stand and deliver and facilitate learning each and every day. And this is just another opportunity to do that. So as I call your name, if you'll come up, please, and stand here and wait for the picture. So we have several winners, so I'll go through these by school. So there are 3 different categories. There's a pre-K4 category, and there's a 5-8 grade level and special area category, and then a 9 through 12. So for Eastside Elementary, the pre-K4 winner was April Richmond, and the grades 5 through 8 and special area winner is April Pearson. For Harold McCormick, the pre-K4 winner is Amy Tapp, and the grades 5 through 8 and special areas is Donna Townsend. For Westside Elementary, pre-K4 winner is Kim Pless. The 5-8 and special area winner is Lisa Adams. Then at T.A. Duggar, the grade 5 through 8 and special area winner is Janie White. And then in Elizabethton High School, the winner is Beth Price. If we give them all a round of applause. So those were all building level winners. And then there's a committee of administrators, former Teacher of the Year winners, and we go through a rubric and score these different applicants, and then we come up with system level winners. So the pre-K 4 system level winner is Kim Pless. Yeah, come on back up here. You're going to want to come up here for this one.
Something more than a picture?
Yes, it's something more than a picture. Then the 5 through 8 and special area winner is Janie White. And of course, the 9-12 winner is Beth Price. And the best part about being the system level winner is each of these individuals will receive a $500 check for their hard work. Thank you.
Okay, if Dr. Newman would come forward to do our teachers who have been recommended for tenure.
Thank you. It's a great privilege to get to recognize and recommend these teachers for tenure for their hard work they have put in for the last 7 years. So it takes 7 years to earn tenure, and they have to have above expectations or significantly above expectations on their last 2 evaluations. So they have really worked hard to earn this tenure. I just wished I had a $500 check to give you, but they didn't provide me one of those. But you do get tenure, so we're excited to offer that to you. So Whitney Birchfield. Whitney is a teacher at Harold McCormick. Come on up. Yes. Haley Bishop. She's a system-wide special ed coach. David Campbell is at a CTE class at EHS. Rachel Darnell. There she is. She is at Eastside. Matt Fox is at T.A. Duggar. He's coaching basketball. Bonnie Grindstaff, she's at the high school. And Forrest Holt at the high school. Please join me in thanking them for their hard work with a round of applause. Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, it's time for our student liaison report. So, Ms. Landry.
I've been speaking with Mr. Mitten the past few weeks about maybe doing some renovations on the entrance from the student parking lot where there's some like cracked concrete, and at night, especially with basketball season coming up, there's not really much lighting out there. And so I think he said we could maybe use some of the COPS grant towards that, since it's kind of like a safety concern. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Would you like to work with us on that?
We're not going to make you like lay concrete
Yeah.
or anything, but.
But just maybe work with us on the design, work with the architect. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, Dr. Gardenauer, Dr. May, and myself just got back from the TSBA annual conference. Either of you guys want to say anything about that?
Yes,
If it's okay, I'll start. First of all, I do want to also thank you to our local Elizabethton Police Department for all their work last night and throughout the evening. And it's interesting because, and all the other agencies that participated that you coordinated. Safety is probably the number one thing that we do outside of educating, but we have to keep your children safe when they come to our systems. And I know this board takes it very seriously. I've seen them work, and in our safety committees, when we've met, there have been a lot of talk about that. It was interesting that at our meeting, we had a leadership conference, and one of the topics we spent time on was active shooters and school safety. We were able to witness, unfortunately, and very sadly, all the active shooters since Columbine forward in real time with audio and hearing and watching what happened, and the lessons that we've learned. And we learned we're doing a lot of things right, and we learned that some of the things that we have tasked in the future with the help of the COPS grant that you guys were able to obtain, and I'm very thankful that it's going to make our students even safer. Some of the stuff is phenomenal compared to what the other districts are doing. And that's the other thing I was able to get out of this conference, was that we were able to interact with your entire state boards and really kind of share best practices and ideas. Something Mr. Mills said when he was up here was about, I may have to change the way I teach. And, it was interesting, some of the speakers we talked about that exactly. The facts don't change, but the way we interact with our world changes. And in almost every case, educators have relationships with the students that change the trajectory of their life. I stand in awe of it. As a physician, I look at you and think of how much impact you have on the world. So to our tenured teachers, I want to say congratulations. Your work is a very noble work. It's the highest that there is in terms of, there are many things that you can do in this world that I view in very high esteem, but there's not many things above being an educator. Think back to all of your lives and how much the impact a teacher had on you. For me, it made me be who I was going to be. And, character is not something you teach, it's something you model. And this city has a lot of good models. This system has some really great models. So I want to say, after listening to the inspiration of some of the people that we were able to be exposed to, I'm even more thankful for the teachers and the system that we have. Not to say we don't have problems, but I'm also thankful for my fellow board members and for the diversity of opinions that we're able to express, but at the same time come together to make decisions that are in the best interest of our students. And really at all times, we're able to kind of come to that. And I hope we always will, because it's very important. The leadership conference was just a small part. We learned about finance, recent changes in school law, including the complexities of charter schools. We were able to interact with various entities about finance and learn about legislative changes, and as well as the advocacy opportunities. So I know each of us had a little different experience from the courses we took while we were there, but the TSBA is a great organization, and thank you all for the opportunity to attend.
I think for me, it was a lot of information that I heard other places, but maybe not combined together in a way that was very coherent as it was this weekend. I think a lot of the things that we've been talking about for so many years, like vouchers, like different funding formulas that we're going to be using in the upcoming years, like strategic planning, those types of things, we're really going to, these will become realities. Charter schools are going to be realities. They are going to be a part of communities in Northeast Tennessee. That's coming. We know that, especially because there's a lot of money in the governor's budget that is set aside for charter schools, and people will be taking advantage of the money that's there. And so we can't be wishing that that would never happen in Northeast Tennessee. We're going to have to look at the realities we have to face within our community, look at our dollars and how we're spending them, and look at what we can do to put ourselves in the best strategic position we can. And so the focus is going to be, what do we do in a new age? And when we heard from our students this evening, what we heard is that people are looking at education in a different way. There's different delivery models out there. There are different focuses than maybe what we have in a traditional school system that we've held on to for so long. Does that mean that what we're doing is bad or poor? Absolutely not. It just means it's different. And people are innovating in education and finding ways to make real change as a part of it. And that's why I think part of what we're doing at our high school right now is trying to look at what is out there and how people are innovating and what they're paying for the innovations. Because in some cases, it's very cheap compared to how we as a state have to do it. But that's going to take a lot of effort at the state level. It's going to take us working together with lawmakers to let them know what the realities are and what's going on in our school systems. And so I think what I took away is advocacy is, what we need to do to advocate. Almost every session that we had, we talked about getting the right people to run for school board, getting the right people to run for city council that have progressive ideas, that think outside the box, because we're going to need to do that if we're going to change the education system, and it will be viable for the next 100 years. We know that. So that's what I took away.
I'll be very brief. I agree with everything they said. The really cool thing that TSP does very well is they realize that you guys have a thankless job. We kind of have a thankless job. People will get mad at you. They get mad at us over things that you're going, I just showed up. So, they're very kind to thank us and let us thank you for the jobs that we do, for the jobs that you do. But my thing that always comes back to is our why, and that's really popular in TED Talks, is know your why. And for us as a board, for our administrators, for our teachers, for our students, you have to know why. Why do you do what you do? And for us, our why, if our answer is not you, the students, then we need to be walking out that door. And every time we walk into a school, into this boardroom, our job should always be, you are our why. Our students, you are our why. And as long as you are our why, we're going to make good decisions for you. And it's always reaffirming to go and be reminded of that's why we're here. And so for our teachers and for parents and everybody, you just know, students, you guys are our why. That's why we're here. And it's our job to make sure that we are constantly putting you guys in the best place for whatever you decide to do next, whatever that is. And it is a privilege to get to sit up here, just on behalf of all of us. And I also want to say thank you to everybody that stayed up all night last night to make sure our schools were safe and to give our students some peace of mind and our parents some peace of mind. I hate we have to do this, but I'm so thankful that we have folks that are taking good care of all of us. So that's all I'm going to say. We're going to move on because we have cake. And there we go. All right, first item on the regular agenda is to ratify the creation of an additional part-time assistant position for the behavior classroom at Harold McCormick Elementary. This position would be funded with special education funds. Excuse me. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Second. Anybody have any questions or comments on this? Dr. G, anything we need to know, or is it self-explanatory?
Pretty self-explanatory.
All right. Item on the floor is to ratify the creation of an additional part-time assistant position for behavioral classroom at Harold McCormick. Position will be funded with special education funds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve the naming of the tennis facility at Elizabethton High School, the Bill Armstrong Tennis Complex. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments on this? It's always nice when somebody sees a need and is willing to step up. So if you see Dr. Armstrong, please
Give
tell
him a hug.
thank you. Yes.
Tell him thank you.
And you can linger. It won't be awkward. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Item on the floor, approve the naming of the tennis facility at Elizabethton High School, the Bill Armstrong Tennis Complex. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.600, grading system as revised. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Dr. G? Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate all the work, as I said before, with Mr. Minton and Dr. Newman. Please come forward and explain the process, please.
We have had the opportunity for the last couple of months to review the grading system policy. This is a policy that we reverted back to last year to our old policies to give us more time to look at. We have a 14-member committee that has looked at it, and we've met about 4 or 5 times over the few months that we've had. We've really pulled the State Board Policy 3.301 to make sure that we modeled our policy so that we are making sure that we are meeting the state's board policy in the process. So as you look at our 4.600 policy, grading system policy, the draft that you have, the first part of it, the uniform grading system, really reflects the state board policy. So you can see in there the grading scale. It's the same as the state board policy. The weighted scores, percentage points for the courses. The only thing that's probably different than the state board is the courses that are earning high school credit at the middle school. We now have some Algebra 1 courses at the middle school that will receive high school credit. So we wanted to make sure they had the opportunity to have the weighted percentage points as well. The second part that is more local decision is the local GPA scale there. And so you can see some of the changes that we made there. We really had a good debate and good discussion about how we should go about weighting these. And basically our thought processes were if they earned college credit or some type of certificate or was an honor class, we kind of based that scale off of that. So you can see the regular courses receiving the 4.0 scale. And then a half a point receiving for honors courses or industry certification. And then if it earned college credit, that's like state credit, it was 4.75. The 75 points were added. And then if it's AP, because the AP is more rigorous and it can be earned, or credit can be given at national schools like Duke, we felt like they may deserve a little bit more rigor or higher points. So that's the reason why it's 1 point. That was our thought process of where those courses lead to and how they receive the additional points for GPA. The thing we have to be concerned about is that we cannot use the 5-point scale for the lottery scholarships or the Hope scholarships. Those type of scholarships, they have to be on a 4-point scale. So most of our students would leave the high school with 2 scales, a 4.0 or a 5.0. Our goal with this is to help our students, to encourage our students to participate in those higher level courses. So that would help our students to be more prepared after they leave us, and then also to help our system with accountability, because it helps our students to be graduate ready. So it helps us with accountability as well. And to help us to get the process started, we put in there, you'll see in the green up above, the GPA calculations, where the local GPA scale would not start until with the incoming freshmen this coming year. The uniform grading policy or system, that has to be in place now. And that's the system that we're using now already. But with the upcoming freshmen, we'd like to start that new with them. Do you guys have any questions?
I have questions about the honors recognition, how those were selected. 4.25 and above was Summa. Magna was 4 to 4.24, and Cum Laude was 375 to 399. Was there discussion?
We did not have a whole lot of discussion about those. That was on the previous policy. Those rankings were, so they're the same. But we'll be glad to take that back to our committee and talk about those if you'd like.
Don't know that it needs to be. I'm wondering about the opportunity for everyone to participate in an honors recognition. Looking at which ones can give credit and how many courses, so that if someone takes an elective, it pulls them below, but it wasn't one of these that allows you to go above a 4 scale, and how that's determined. Any guidance on that would, but that was on the prior policy as well.
It was, yeah. But that's something that we can definitely look at changing. Or
hadn't stood out to me because I'm not sure what the ratio of number of courses with AP credit or the potential to go above a 4, and how that might knock out someone from the ability to have honors recognition where it may have been deserved but not available to them to be in one of these.
Sure.
Do you have anything that you want to add to that?
All I have to say is, just as an addition, we will probably be revisiting this very soon again. Tennessee, the state school board is taken up that they would like to go back to a 90 scale, a 10 scale, because every state around Tennessee does not use a 93 to 100 scale for an A, and that is putting our students at a disadvantage as far as GPA. So we know that they will be taking up that in this coming meeting, and I think for the next couple months. Hopefully something will be decided by February.
So we'll probably see this again. is
We
what
will
you're
see
saying.
it again, I
Okay.
believe.
First of all, thank you, guys. I love the fact you said you had spirited conversation.
Oh, we did.
It's
yes.
very
Yes.
diplomatic. I like
Yes.
that. I like that. No one was injured, I'm correct?
No, no.
Okay, there we go. Because you're talking about smart things, so it'd be terrible to start fighting. So, thank you all. I know that was a ton of work, and we appreciate you. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, item on the floor, approve first reading of Board Policy 4.600, grading system as revised. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Last item, approve granting tenure to Whitney Birchfield, Haley Bishop, David Campbell, Rachel Darnell, Matt Fox, Bonnie Grindstaff, and Forrest Holt. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I love it. All right, anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none. Item on the floor, approve granting tenure to Whitney Birchfield, Haley Bishop, David Campbell, Rachel Darnell, Matt Fox, Bonnie Grindstaff, and Forrest Holt. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried, and congratulations. Couple of things before we adjourn. Don't forget, cake. Second of all, don't forget, we have a big game Friday night. Get your tickets. Be there. We're wearing orange, or you wear whatever coat you got, right? Orange out. Also, there is, at the Bonnie Kate, our drama department is doing Murder on the Orient Express. Please go see that. Did you say we were going to have a workshop before our December meeting?
We do need to have a called meeting, because as soon as we get the bids back on our STEM lab, we need to move on that.
We'll keep that keep that thought on your mind. And let's see, the next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Tuesday, December 17th here. The regular meeting starts at 6:30, but we hope to have a called meeting prior to. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Happy Thanksgiving, and we are adjourned.